Vairavan, it's a pleasure to welcome you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Certainly a pleasure to be here with you.
There are different layers to your personality, so I have to try my best to peel one after the other so we get to the bottom of understand the legacy of not only you but your grandfather, who started some great initiatives in India which is still carrying on in the southern part of India in the state of Tamil Nadu. But before I get there, I'll start with you. You came here to do your master's.
Yes.
From the Washington University in St. Louis, as you mentioned earlier. Then you went to San Diego to start your first biotech company, focused on genome sequencing. And you're on to the second one now, and you sit on the board of the company. Question is, this was in the late 90s. Bioinformatics was pretty hot. Did you have a particular fascination, interest in this, and how did you get into this particular ecosystem?
My passion has been always in enhancing patient care. I initially wanted to be a doctor, and since I had studied out in Ooty in Lovedale, and I had missed taking the appropriate course to be a doctor, so I had to go become a chemical engineer. And I still wanted to become a doctor, so that's why I got into biomedical engineering. But even while I was completing my biomedical engineering, it was always something about patient care, because in the back of my mind, I saw my grandfather, who I was quite close to, but he died when I was about 8 years old. But he used to howl when they used to give injections. He had bone cancer. So I said, is there any way to make life better for such people? And that was my focus. Cancer, what can I do? And that's how I got into biotechnology, developing clinical diagnostic tests.
I want to give a sort of a comparative analysis between technology, I'm talking about software, and then the hard science that you work on. Is it because the cycles are much longer in biomed and medical field in general, that it takes so much time for a solution or a product to come to market versus a regular software hardware company to do that? Because when I look back, people have started this 40 years ago. The evolving hasn't happened at a pace that we would all expect as human beings to find those solutions. So I'm trying to understand, why does it take so long? There's a lot of money also involved in that process. I was talking one time to the co-founder of Lipitor, and he said it took us $1.5 billion to come with this pill. And when you get it, you think it's just, a few dollars, and then that's the solution. But imagine the number of people and the time it took to get to that solution. So I'm trying to understand, because you have been there as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so in clinical diagnostics, you're able to do testing where you will probably take some enzymes or chemicals and you develop a test. But to make that test specific to a disease, you need software. And the software is not something that you can just program in and get a result. There are algorithms involved. And an algorithm, so you do need the bioinformatic. That was the start of the bioinformatic era, where the software was being, these algorithms were integrated and started. Now you have the onset of artificial intelligence, and this is enhancing. So, for example, currently with this company, with Diacata, what we are able to do is patients who have cancer, they are either treated, almost 70% of the patients are treated with radiation, and another, they're also getting a dose of chemo. Now, it doesn't matter whether you go to Sloan Kettering or Institute or to MD Anderson, the best in the country, they don't necessarily offer the best for the patient. They offer the best in standard care. So today, when a cancer patient goes in for treatment, they give them a dose. The doctor has no clue. They use body mass index. That means how, what the height is, weight is, age, and then they look at the clinical trials registry and then say, all right, this dose worked for that individual, so we're going to start you on this dose. Now what happens is the patient then asks, hey doc, how's it going? Am I getting better? He said, let's wait. they have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to do a PET scan to see whether the patient is responding. Has a tumor grown? Or 6 to 8 weeks is pretty bad for a cancer patient. And then many times they'll say, sorry, that treatment didn't work. Let's start you on another chemotherapeutic. What we are able to do is within 48 hours, we'll tell you whether the therapy is working or not. This is amazing because this is also, there's a little bit of algorithms involved here, and we are integrating AI into this, where we are looking for cell-free DNA. So when a cancer cell dies, the cell-free DNA comes out of the cell. And if you measure the baseline and 48 hours later, if it is going up, indicates that the tumor is responding. That means more cancer cells are dying. If it is flat, it says there's no response to therapy. So today we have some major interest from Johns Hopkins, from MD Anderson, all these leading cancer institutes in this technology. And this is exactly what I wanted to do, something that is beneficial to patients, something that can enhance patient care. And that's what this is all about. And AI plays a big role in here, because apart from this, a physician needs to know this is a diagnostic tool, but you can use that tool to determine how to manage the patient.
This saying fits very aptly on you. I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard this many times, you find something you're passionate about and love doing, you'd never work a day in your life.
That's right.
I want to switch gears and go back to the legacy of the family back in the state of Tamil Nadu. You said it's in the southwest region of Tamil Nadu, near the important city of Trichy. That's where your family hails from. Your grandfather was there during the freedom struggle of India. Well-known business person and philanthropist, well-known to the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru as well. You said you were 8 years old then, but obviously you still have some memories of that, and you're continuing the legacy from your grandfather to father and to you now. This man has done some extraordinary things, which is benefiting the population even today, in the name of educational institutions, healthcare, lots of other things. So I just wanted you to give me two perspectives. Now that you're where you are as a very successful businessman in your own right, but you look at giving back to the society, and how do you see that starting at that time by your grandfather? And then what things, if you remember, that attracted you and fascinated you as a young child?
Yeah. What really transpired is about 5 years ago, I had completed a book, wrote a book on my grandfather, and the governor of Tamil Nadu released it. And while writing that book, I realized how little I had done in life myself compared to what he had done in his 48 years. So he was a very successful businessman who, at the age of about 28 or so, he had come to Kerala and started textile mills because they said there was a big opportunity for textiles. And at that time, he was so caring for his employees that he'd built quarters for them, built a temple, Krishna temple, built a school, and took care of his employees so well. And then he got into other business. He had a stockbroking seat out in Bombay. He went there, he speculated, he bought an airline, he was chairman of East West Insurance Company. So when I looked at what he did, then I said, all that money that he had, he was obviously very rich. When India gained independence, Nehru had come down to Madras, and there was a meeting. And he says, I really want industrialists to come forward to educate India. And my grandfather was probably 29, 30 years old. So he gets up, they don't know who he was. He gets up on stage and he pledged 5 lakhs to start a new Institute of Engineering in Madras. And it eventually became AC Tech, which is opposite to IIT in Madras. And he said, I want you to start something which is not available. So they started chemical engineering, leather technology, and textile technology. And that was the start. And then he went on to Annamalai University in Chidambaram and gave another 5 lakhs there. The president had come, and so he had just gone and given 5 lakhs. And a couple of months later, he went back and said, what did you do with my money? And they had a little brick saying, donated by Alagappa Chettiar. And he got so angry, he went to his hometown, bought a 1,000-acre jungle, and started building institutions. And he built an engineering college, an arts college, polytechnic, physical education, on and on and on. And so that, is, he took all his money. So he had the Ritz Hotel Stone, he had palm oil estates in Burma, rice mills in Burma, palm oil in Malaysia, coffee estates in Coorg, real estate in Bombay. All that just to build the institutions. It was his own money. Nobody came forward to help him. And he invited Nehru and Rajendra Prasad and Radhakrishnan and Kamraj and all these people to Karaikudi, and he even built an airport for them to land. That was the passion in which he was. Anything he set aside to do, he did this immediately. And he did not go around and wait for people to give him money. He knew he could do it himself. And that drive, and when I'm looking, and with all that passion and everything, he suffered in health. He had, when he was in the UK, when he went to the UK to write the exam, he passed the exam for the IFS, but then he failed the physical. He had onset of leprosy. And it was already very, if you had pimples, you couldn't walk around. Now you had leprosy, which caused major deformation of the face. And he was in England, where they hated Indians. And here was a young man sitting out there with all this face problem. But he went through it all. He went to did his barrister at law. He learned how to fly a plane. And within 3 years, he was back in India. He worked as a trainee in the Chartered Bank. Then he came back and started his business. So everywhere it was adversity, overcoming adversity. And he did this. So when he started building these institutions, it was non-stop. And he, because of so many important dignitaries coming to the campus, he was able to attract faculty from Calcutta, Delhi, Bombay. People used to say, something is happening there. Let me go. He gave them homes and houses and took care of all them. So we had top-notch faculty, everything. And eventually he ended up having perhaps his greatest accomplishment was, he had many accomplishments. One was when India gained independence, they were going to establish centers of excellence. And they were going to establish the Electrochemical Research Institute. So Tata wanted it in Bombay, Birla wanted it in Calcutta, and my grandfather wanted it in Karaikudi. Karaikudi was no comparison. It's a little village. There's no airport, nothing. But what he did was they had this review done and they gave all the shortfalls of Karaikudi. And he came up with possible solutions and went to see Nehru. And Nehru had to make the call. And he said, I'd really want you to put this in my campus. And Nehru said, you got 2 other people bidding. You got to outbid them. So he said, what do you want me to do? He said, you're a businessman, you know what to do. So he gave 300 acres of land and 15 lakhs to the government of India in 1947 to have the Center of Electrochemical Research Institute housed in the campus. So today they have 650 PhD electrochemists funded by the government of India, lots of research and patents coming out of that campus. But he had that vision at that time. It was a one-way street. He was going to get nothing in return. But he knew it was going to make the community prosperous. And that's what he did. He gave voluntarily. These were the things that started, almost waking me up. He said, what have I done? I haven't done anything. I may have done a little bit, had success here and there, but nothing to impact society, nothing to impact social welfare. And so I got into this, and I started actively managing the institutions, and then I got the nursing college. We started a nursing college today. The first batch of students have already graduated. Now I want to start a college of Ayurvedic medicine, and then the medical college, all in the same campus.
It looks like a fairy tale, doesn't look real. And how old was he when he passed away?
48.
Oh my goodness.
He was 48 when he passed away, and for the last 5 years, when he went to see Nehru and he came down the steps, he fell down and broke his leg, and he was on a wheelchair, and then they said he had bone cancer. So he suffered. So he wrote a letter to Rajaji, which anywhere I go, I just read this out to students and people assembled. So Rajaji wrote a letter. He said, Dr. Alagappa Chettiar, I read your article that you wrote in the Hindu about how well, about this speech that somebody gave. He said that you, in your state of health, still writing such articles impresses me. And this is Rajaji writing to him. So he writes a letter back to Rajaji and said, dearest Rajaji, I thank you for your letter. I've just been discharged from the nursing home for the nth time. The doctors have given up hope and said my body is totally cancerous. So I already am unable to use my right arm. The cancer has now spread. Cancer lesions have now spread down my spine. My right leg is immovable. My left leg is beginning to hurt. And God has given me the gift of my left hand. And during that, so today when people have a headache, they say, sorry, I can't come to work, I'm having a cold. Here was a person who had the use of his left hand alone and still kept giving. So when he gave that college, the women's, his last act of philanthropy was when a couple of women came to him and said, you built so many institutions, but you didn't build a women's college. So he said, okay, I will build. And they left. And he called his people together and he said, call the education minister and ask her when is she available to open the women's college. So these people said, we don't have money to complete the current buildings because nobody is giving money and your money is running out, of your current thing. So he said, I didn't ask you about that. I just asked you, ask her when is she available. So Rajkumari Amrit Kaur in Delhi, she was the education minister. So she gave a date that she was available in 3 weeks. So they said, okay, we're going to start the women's college in 3 weeks. And these people are wondering, where's he going to open? Which building is he going to use? And he said, go get the foundation stone ready. So they got the foundation stone. And then one day before the event, he says, I really don't need a house. All I need is a bed. So he moved into the locker room of the cricket stadium. And he gave away his house to found the women's college. So today, so when you talk about philanthropy, one of the finance minister at that time, P. Chidambaram, was at the 100th anniversary. They had released a stamp. He said, today the world talks about Bill Gates as being one of the greatest philanthropists. But the moment Bill Gates gives away his house and goes to the street, that's what is true philanthropy. And that's what this man practiced. When he died, he had nothing to his name. And during that time, during his heydays, he had his airlines and, he was, had his, the hotels and all those things. So today, the legacy that he leaves behind, 70 years after his death, they still write books on him. If you go to shops all over, there'll be his photograph hanging. And it's heartwarming to see it. But then at the same time, there's a lot of expectations from me. So, your grandfather. So when I go quite often to my campus. I run the trust, which has about 8,000 students. I also sit on the syndicate of the university. But my focus is how to make, expand the spectrum of education. And people would come and say, your grandfather did this and all that. My husband died. My father died. Can you give education? Can you give grants? So these types of things keep coming up. And we do as much as we can to help them. But that's the legacy. You can't come anywhere close to that.
I don't think anybody can. There is just a lot to accomplish in 40 years of your life. And especially since he did his bar at law in London, then he came back to India and do this. Incredible. I mean, how many lessons do we have here? Passion, determination, grit.
There was one story. He always read a lot of books, and he was going from Madras to Trichy by car. And they stopped at a railway crossing. And one lady selling cucumber came and said, so please, cucumber, 5 rupees, 5 paisa or something per cucumber. And he was reading his book, and he rolled the window down. He says, how much for that entire basket? He said, 10 rupees. So he gave her 100 rupees. And she says, I don't have change. He said, no, keep the 100 rupees and keep your cucumber. So she was so surprised, so she sat down and started giving cucumber free to everybody. So the husband got angry and says, what are you doing? He said, this gentleman didn't even take anything. He gave me so much, so I should do my share. So that's what she did. Wow. So that was one thing. And then another one was Mahatma Gandhi came to Madras, and he was opening this Thakur Baba Vidyalaya, an ashram. And there was an auction. And people were buying, they're taking 100 rupees, 500 rupees. And he came and gave 5 lakhs. And Gandhi himself, that's the first time he established contact with Gandhi, and Gandhi himself was surprised. And so they said, what was the value of 5 lakhs in 1946? He said, 1 ounce of gold was 5 rupees. So he gave 100 kilos of gold, knowing fully well he was going to get nothing in return. It was the heart to give. And that was always, it was like Karna. He never, anybody who went there didn't come back empty-handed. It was something.
You have very, very large shoes to fill.
It is.
On that note, I think I would also like you to share with us the anecdote of the Ritz-Carlton. That'll be interesting to hear.
So one day, since he had a stock exchange seat in Bombay, he had gone to Bombay for this, to visit Bombay, and he had an entourage of people. So he went to Churchgate to Red's Hotel and said, go get the rooms. There was an English manager who had just changed, and he looked at these people who were assembled at the front desk, and he said, no, there's no rooms available. So they came back and said, sir, he's saying no rooms available. He said, tell him I'll take the whole floor. So he went back and said, he says, I think you people did not understand. I said, there are no rooms available. Unless you buy the hotel, you're not going to get a room. So he said, go find out how much does the hotel cost. So they went to Kapoor, who was the owner of the Ritz Hotel. He went to see him and gave him more than what was asked for, bought that hotel that evening, went back to the manager and said, I own the hotel and I want rooms. And if you want to continue in the job, you got to respect your customer. And that was what had happened that day. Amazing, to have bought the hotel that evening.
This is legendary. I mean, wow. So, in conclusion, I would like you to give us a summary of where things stand. I know it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to stand up to this man's shadow. But still, if you can just summarize for our audiences who would like to get this inspiration, to see what you have done to take this legacy forward, and how you think people should start thinking about these things, because we think someday when we become rich enough, or the millionaire enough, then we can give back. But you don't have to wait for the right moment. Right moment starts when you are ready, and that's when you should start giving in a small ways to make an impact, because empathy is very, very fundamental for all of us to exist, in this ecosystem. So I think some great, great lessons from this man.
Yes, as I said, when I wrote that book, it was like there's almost 30 pages of suffering, how he went through all that suffering. So I said, when someone goes through such suffering and still is able to give, it is the heart to give. You have to learn how to give. Whatever little you have or how much you have, it's okay to share it with others. And that has been my mission in life. I established clearly what I wanted to do, to build a medical college. And I said, to build a medical college, is that the right approach? I said, there's so much India has in terms of Ayurvedic, natural medicine. So I'm starting off. So we started off with the nursing college. We now have the College of Ayurvedic Medicine and a College of Medicine. And I want to, and obviously when the College of Medicine comes, then there's medical technology and bioinformatics, everything goes around it. So I think education is an absolute must, and if you help and promote this, automatically you're going to enhance the prosperity of the community. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to go and tell them that I have this company, that company. So what have I done? And this is the only way I could follow the footsteps of what he's done. And that's my mission. And it's all for the welfare. And people have asked me, why are you building it in Karaikudi? Why didn't you build it in Madras, in Chennai or something like that? I said, that's not the goal. I'm not there to make money. My goal is to enhance the spectrum of education for the people, for the community, and then just make this a rewarding experience for all.
I just realized in this entire conversation, we haven't taken the name of this great man, so people know who we are talking about. So if you mention the name of the institutes and the organization, it has his name there, and I'm sure there is a website that we can learn about this person and the name of the book that you wrote. So it'll be very inspiring for everybody else.
Yeah, his name is Alagappa Chettiar, Dr. R.M. Alagappa Chettiar. And the university is Alagappa University. The book that I wrote is called The Beautiful Mind, and it's available on Amazon and Flipkart and all this. And please do visit. And in building such educational institutions, it just doesn't happen. You'd go and start something by yourself. It's a support from everybody. So any one of you wanting to help out, please reach out. If anyone needs to reach me, I'm at chairman@alagappa.org. That's all. But then this has been a wonderful experience, and I continue to march forward.
No, it's incredibly inspirational, very, very empowering. I've had the distinct pleasure of learning about this great man through you. So thank you for this great opportunity. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.